I actually did study botany for several years, and one of the things I did was a survey of the plants growing in Kenton County, which sounds interesting, but was a lot of work, and most of them, of course, weeds that no one's interested in. However, there are a lot of wildflowers, and the wildflowers are why we're here. It's a huge topic. Tonight we're going to talk about ephemeral wildflowers. Those are the ones that come up before the trees leaf out in the woods. They flower, they grow, they fruit, and then by the time the trees leaf out, they're pretty much done. Where do they go? Well, they go to sleep. They go dormant, they die down, and almost all of them have some form of what we'll see here are roots and tubers and bulbs to get them through the winter for next year. They're very interesting life cycles. This is a trillium on the front here, which we can see in the woods, not 100 feet from here. Pleased to proceed. Just some basic flower parts so we can talk about them. And the sepals usually enclose the flower, not always. The petals, usually there, not always. Stamens are the so-called male parts, and then, of course, the eggs are the female. And not all flower and wildflowers have all these parts. As we'll find, some of them are missing, some of them are modified, or sometimes they're separate male and female plants. It's all good though, because it all works out. So, all right. Got a magnolia there. Some good spring ephemerals growing around it. These plants are very delicate for the most part. Direct sun, they fry. So by the time the trees leaf out, they're usually done. A lot of them have only 1 or 2 leaves their entire life, which is a little strange, I know, but that's how they go. Some have more. They have to be pollinated in the early spring. As you may know, honeybees are not native to America. They are from Europe. So they're out of the question. Obviously, these plants have been pollinated for thousands and thousands of years. They rely on other insects, little tiny bees and flies and wasps and things you don't really notice too much. Bumblebees are native, and they do come out fairly early. But honestly, they don't know what pollinates some of these plants. And some of them, as we'll see, are self-pollinating, which is kind of cheating, but that's how they do it. Okay, where can you find them? A mature forest. What do we mean? I mean one that has trees 40, 50 feet tall and is pretty densely shaded during the summer, right? Not your average roadside so much, but Audubon Nature Preserve, all the area surrounding DeVue Park, all the hills down to the Ohio River, places like that are just teeming with these ephemeral wildflowers. They list a few here. Red River's fabulous for them, but you've got to go a little bit. They're all over DeVue. All right. These are some of the various ways that they store. A corm is a vertical underground stem. Bulbs are more or less stems, and you have rhizomes, tubers, and other things. They're storage organs. Because what these plants do is in their short growing season, they store all that energy in a rootstock, and then they go to sleep, so to speak. They lay dormant all through the summer, which you're like, that's odd, they're not growing. It's the warmest time of the year. But there's no light. They just can't get enough light in the dense forest. This is around here, what do we have? Oak, maple, beech, buckeye, linden, dense shade. Very little light filters down to the forest floor, so these things have to get their business done and move on. All right, Erigenia bulbosa. You say, what's that? Well, it is, I think, generally in my experience, the first wildflower to bloom in the woods. I guarantee it's out there now. It's tiny, it's only yay big. A harbinger is an omen, of course. Aerugenia means early birth. And of course, bulbosa means it grows from bulbs. It's sometimes called salt and pepper plant because of the dark anthers and the white petals. Believe it or not, it is in the carrot family. Doesn't look like a carrot. But those are umbels. They're little groups of flowers called umbels that are characteristic of the carrot family. Aerugenia is in all the woods around here. You gotta look for it though, because it's very small. And it grows where it grows. There's no reason it can't grow in a shady part of your yard, by the way. And by the way, tonight, virtually none of these plants are endangered. I will mention if they are, but virtually none of them are. So they could be adopted to a nice home, providing everybody's happy. Sir, bloodroot. Why do they call it bloodroot? Well, because it has a rhizome that has a red sap, dark red. It will be glad to stain your hands. The bloodroot only has one leaf throughout its life. And it's in the poppy family. Now, oddly enough, it is pollinated by little tiny bees, but it has an interesting deal worked out with ants. The fruits, which are little pods, break open, and the seeds are very attractive to ants. The ants carry the seeds underground, they eat the outer coating, leave the rest. So the seeds are already planted. It's a pretty clever thing. The bloodroot has medicinal uses. Now I should say that unless you are a tribal elder or a trained herbalist, one must be very careful with these, because many of these plants, including bloodroot, are toxic if not used properly. Native Americans used them for various things for centuries, but then again, they had centuries to experiment. If you're really not sure, best to leave it to Walgreens and CVS. The sap of this plant can actually do some strange things to human skin. All right, so bloodroot is very common around here. Easily liberated to grow in your yard. It spreads slowly. It's not invasive. And it's a really nice plant. I mean, it's one of the first to bloom. Who doesn't like it? Sir?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do deer eat those?
Not to my knowledge, because it's very toxic. Although I know deer eat toxic things, I've never seen them gnaw on bloodroot. In fact, I've never seen them gnaw on any of these ephemerals.
I was going to say, do they generally leave them alone?
I've never seen them chew on them. Celandine poppy. A beautiful another poppy. Grows in the woods around here. It resembles very closely the European celandine poppy, but they are in fact two different plants. The European celandine is sometimes grown around here. It's sort of kind of invasive. Our good native one is not. And it has a sappy juice, very delicate. It will do fine in a shady spot in your yard. You can see the pods there. They split open to reveal seeds that are usually black. Very nice plant. Very common in the woods around here.
How tall does it get?
Less than a foot usually. I've seen big areas just covered by this. And it's very nice with some flower. And then you come back a month later and like, where did it go? It's all gone. The leaves just dry up and go away. Sir? Okay, Dutchman's breeches. Dicentra. Now, believe it or not, this is also in the poppy family, though it's sometimes split out into the fumitory family. Dutchman's breeches are akin to bleeding heart, if you know what that is. Very delicate flowers. They're thought to resemble the pants of some certain Dutch people, but there's another one that looks very much like it called squirrel corn. Squirrel corn is called that because it gets little yellow bulbs or corms that are visible on the surface of soil. I've never seen squirrels eat them. Obviously, you must not like them too much, but you can find them in the woods. Squirrel corn and Dutchman breeches are very similar flower-wise. They're both very nice. They do very well in a shady spot of your yard. So, no reason you can't borrow one of those. They're quite common. They do not make good cut flowers. They wilt quite a bit, as most of these ephemerals do. They like where they grow and they like to stay there. All right, sir. Our good old trillium. Well, why trillium? Well, everything's 3 on it except the stamens. There's 6 of. It has 3 leaves in its life. We have yellow, red, and white here. They're quite common and beautiful little flowers. They're only like 6 inches tall. They will cover vast areas too. They spread by underground stems. And they're monocots in the lily family, even though they don't have those parallel veins y'all hear about. They are nonetheless in the lily family. Quite a few species in the United States. We have 3 or 4 here. There's a maroon dark red one that is common over in the Audubon nature, but you can find white and yellow and sort of a pink sometimes too. They're very nice. Sure. Erythronium. Now this is our beloved trout lily. Why trout? Well, some people think the leaves look like the skin of a trout. Some more or less do. And there's one of our little bees of some indeterminate origin on it. The yellow trout lily, they tell me, is off limits, even though it's common here. We have white and pink, and they are not necessarily endangered. They tell me that at least the state of Kentucky says to leave them alone. You can actually buy trout lilies, though, from some bulb suppliers. They are bulbs. They're very nice, maybe a foot, 6 inches, and they too will cover areas. Just a couple leaves throughout their brief little existence there, and then they go to sleep. But they're very common around here. Sir. Here's a good one. Claytonia, named after Mr. Clayton. Virginica, the spring beauty. Now, this is a tiny flower. It's maybe this tall. 2 leaves its entire life. That's all. It is in the Portulaca family. It doesn't look like Portulaca, but it's in the Portulaca family. And it grows from underground rootstock. It can be more pink than that, or it can be pure white. Now, have you got a part of the old lawn where grass won't grow due to the shade? This will cover the lawn. It's actually kind of aggressive. I've seen it just covering spots of people's lawns. But it grows where it grows. It likes shade and moisture. You cannot take full sun. It'll burn up. But that one will do quite well in your lawn in a shady spot where grass will not grow. The spring beauty is another very early one, quite common around here, but quite small.
If that's part of the Portulaca family,
Yes.
does it have the thick leaves?
Now, they are fleshy. There's 2, they're long, about, this long. They are fleshy, but not quite as fleshy as a traditional Portulaca.
And how long is their flowering season?
A few weeks to a
What
month.
does it look like then when they're not flowering?
Nothing. They rapidly wilt and go away, and then they're usually overshadowed by other plants that come up in the woods. All right, Jack in the pulpit. Well, Jack is the dark thing there, and the red is the pulpit, supposedly. Now, Aracema triphyllum. Triphyllum because it has 3 leaflets. It is in the arum family, like callas and taro, if anybody eats taro. Any Hawaiians here? The calla lily is its closest relative. It has a spike of flowers here that are here. The Jack in the pulpit does some strange things. It starts out as male, as all male flowers. Then it goes female, and then it goes both. So, you know, it's going to please everybody, but it changes gender, so to speak, throughout its existence, depending on how old the plant is. Goes 10 or 12 years, they say. Toxic. The juice is bad news. Will grow fine in the shady part of your lawn, just treat it like a calla. Although it'll probably be gone by the time the callas come up because they're more tropical and warm loving. But it's quite interesting. There's another one around here called Green Dragon, that instead of red, it's green. It's close relative to Jack in the Pulpit. It also grows in the woods around here. Okay, sir.
How big does that get?
About a foot, maybe a little more. All right, Dentaria. We are now in, believe it or not, the cabbage family. And Dentaria is so-called not because of this one, but other ones the leaves are tubed. And Dentaria, well, I don't know how many species we have exactly. There are quite a few around here. It gets nice little four-petaled flowers. There are pink, white. I've never seen a red or blue. They don't do blue. And they go maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet. They're all over Audubon woods there. They're quite nice. There are some cultivated dentarias that you can buy at the garden center, but not these, of course. Several species. One of them is actually evergreen, which is a little out of line with the ephemerals, but it does grow up in Audubon woods. Toothworts. All right, sir. All right. Rue anemone. Well, it's not a rue, which is in a different family. Think the suit of clubs and cards is the rue leaf, supposedly. Thalictum thalictroides, which means thalictrum. Yeah, it's just the ancient Greek name. It is in the same family as anemone, though. And they're very delicate plants, maybe 4 or 5 inches tall, early spring blooming, and local favorites. And the next one is its clone, the false rue anemone, because, you know, why would we not have a false rue anemone? These are all in the buttercup family. They can be told apart by the number of petals and whatnot, but they are quite similar. Isopyrum means like a pear, referring to the fruits of the plant, but all just almost identical to the rue anemone. They're both common around here, very delicate. Now, you've probably seen, there's quite a patch on Park Road past Finke's of yellow buttercups that grow on the side of the road. That's actually Ficaria, which is a invasive European weed you really don't want in your yard. You can ask Mrs. Spoor about that.
Yeah, beware.
It's demonic. You can't kill it. It comes back. You don't want it. But Isopyrum is not like that. It's your friend. There's no reason you can't grow it. All right, sir. Delphinium. Well, Delphinium means dolphin. Does it look like a dolphin? No, but they say some people see a dolphin in the flowers, in the shape of the flowers. Not really finding it myself, but okay. It's also known as larkspur because the flowers do have a spur on them resembling the back toe of a lark bird. Tricorny means 3 horns, which returns to the fruit of it. It's a 3-piece pod. 1.5 feet, 2 feet, very nice plant, related to the garden larkspurs and delphiniums, and no reason you can't grow this one. They're great purple color. They can be transplanted. A goat plant. Sir.
Excuse me.
The mayapple. You probably know this.
Applegarth.
Yes?
Are those grown in the shade? Can they grow in the shade?
Yes, this is all shade.
All shade.
All
Okay,
shade.
good.
Podophyllum peltatum. Now, believe it or not, this isn't a barberry family. You're like, barberry? You know those shrubs around here with the tiny red leaves and numerous thorns that stab you and little red berry? Yeah, those are barberries. Doesn't look like a barberry, does it? The mayapple has 2 leaves throughout its life. Podophyllum means foot leaf. Somebody thinks it looks like the foot of some sort of animal. Peltatum means shield shape. Again, the leaves. Now here's an exception to our general rule. The ripe fruit of the mayapple is edible. The ripe fruit. The unripe fruit will make you ill. The foliage will kill you. So you want to be real sure about the old mayapple. All right. Mertensia, named after Mr. Merton. Virginia cow's lip. Is it a lip? No, actually it's cow slip, which, as I told Mrs. Spohr, is a modification of cow slop, because they apparently favor the more fertilized sections of the woods. It's a beautiful native flower. It's in the borage family. And let's see, you know where, well, Walmart and all that stuff down there along 3L Highway is? Just all along those creeks in there. There's thousands of these plants. When they bloom, it's very nice. They're not around long. You can see the flowers tend to turn purple as they age. They come out nice bright blue. They'll go a couple 3 feet. No reason you can't grow it. There are garden mertensias that are grown and sold. Gonna have a tough time probably finding this one in the seed catalogs though, but just go down to 3L and dig one up if they don't see you, and you'll be all right. It's a very nice plant and good to go. Polemonium reptans. Well, that means polemonium. The Jacob's ladder refers to the leaf, which is somewhat ladder-like, as it is numerous leaflets. This isn't a phlox family, and it grows in the woods around here. It's a very nice little flower, very delicate, and a couple species we have. They're both more or less blue, some whitish sometimes, maybe a foot. Over off of Highland Avenue, it's all over the place. Very nice plant. Kin to phlox. Sir? Dodecatheon, which means 12 gods. Why? No one knows. But it means 12 gods. Shooting star is a little more obvious. The petals are bent backwards or reflexed. This is in the primrose family. Now I should warn you, many, but not all people, are highly sensitive to the foliage of the primrose family and break out in a god-awful rash. So you've got to be a little careful. I've not heard anybody getting from shooting star, but actual primroses themselves are notorious for it. You got to watch them; they'll get you if you're sensitive to them. They're white. There are other colors. Shooting star is not your most common plant around here. You can find it. You can actually buy this plant. Does quite well in the shade, and you really can't complain about the flowers. You get several different colors. Very nice plant. So, hydrophyllum, which means water leaf. Go figure. The water leaf family is kin to the borage family. Very delicate flowers that wilt at the slightest bit of heat or sun. They're mainly white or blue. They bloom in April. I've seen them cover large areas. By the way, this square stem thing here is Galium aporini, otherwise known as bed straw or cleavers. It gets those little green balls that stick to your socks and drive you crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So watch out for that one. But the hydrofilm is a very nice plant. Plenty of it around here, not endangered. Sir? Its close relative, Phacelia persii, the Miami mist. Who doesn't like that? And you say, well, I've never seen that.
Oh, yeah, I did.
But it's around here. It really is. I've found it many places in Kenton County. And it's not at all rare. There's another species of Phacelia. They're very nice plants. There are garden Phacelias also that you can buy, European ones. But there's no reason you can't grow this thing. Sure. Good old violets. Now, we have native violets of white, yellow, and violet colored. However, most of the ones you see are Eurasian imports. Violets are very strange plants. You're like, violet? Well, that's all right. No, they're very strange. Let me explain. The flowers that you see often don't set seed. Later in the year, they produce cleistogamous flowers. Fancy word for closed marriage. The cleistogamous flowers are green, they don't even open, and they're self-fertilizing. It's like insurance. If these flowers don't work out, no problem. I'll just make more and take care of things myself. And that's how violets go. Because I'm not much on like toxic chemicals, my lawn is largely violets, much to my neighbor's joy. And it actually does better than the grass. You cannot kill this stuff. And you get purple flowers.
So are those good for pollinator, is it a pollinator or?
Say again, please.
Is that good for being a pollinator plant or for food for any particular?
Well, the birds eat the seeds. It does have some nectar. I'm not sure. It's got a spur on the flower, which attracts certain types of moths and butterflies and whatnot. They'd have the long tongue. You can't see it, but out of the back of each flower, back this way, is a spur that contains the nectar. So, oh yeah, the bees like them.
So I have permission to stop driving myself crazy trying to dig them out?
No, they're easy to dig out. There's a thick
Well,
root
yeah, I
stock.
know, but I don't have to. I can just let them go, right?
Right.
They're good.
Killing them's quite difficult. They laugh at Roundup. They're hard to kill. They'll die down, but then they'll come back from the rootstock repeatedly. It takes years to get up. And of course, my neighbors are like, your violets are getting in my yard. And I just say, well, your grass is getting in my violets. They love me. Okay, I think that's all.
That's all of it, yeah.
So, obviously, this is just a sampling of the ephemeral wildflowers around here. Yes, we have orchids. No, you can't touch them. There are 2 or 3 species of orchids around here. Super rare. I've only seen them a couple times in my many hundred years. And they're impressive, but endangered. So we're probably going to leave them alone. Believe it or not, we have a cactus that grows here. Mrs. Spohr has a fabulous crop in her yard. Comes back every year. It's a hardy cactus. A prickly pear.
like to eat it. Unbelievably, the deer eat it.
Yeah.
You have the ephemeral classification of wildflowers. Are there other classifications of
Oh, sure,
wildflowers
well-
that you're not talking about?
Oh, absolutely. And we plan on
I'm
talking
talking about
that.
these because they're good for here, right?
They're good for here. They're
Okay.
blooming now, and you can grow them in your yard if you have shade.
Right,
I
and
mean-
so we'll have another talk in about 2 months, like early May, to talk about the wildflowers that bloom in the summer and the fall.
Right.
But the ephemerals are sort of a very brief window, and I wanted everybody, if you have interest, to have a chance to go look at them. I have found, I mean, Patrick, you can say much better, but a 2 to 3 week
Oh yeah, it's short.
interval
And-
where you can really see them in their glory.
These 60-degree days we've had, they're just shooting up. I guarantee they're blooming now. You can go out and find them in the woods. Once the leaves are out, it's pretty much over.
What's the best time to plant?
Oh, you can, once they go dormant, you can move them, there's no problem. Spring Beauty is like violet, it's kind of hard to kill, as is bloodroot. Some of the other ones are delicate, like the water leaf and the mertensia, but you can move them. And yeah, I mean, most of your, what people think of wildflowers are the daisies and whatnot, and that grow in the full sun. But these are all native, all important, and they're not seen that often. And as some of them are quite nice, as you've seen.
One
Yes.
of the best places to see these, I'll just mention this, is right very near here on either the Debut Trails or Audubon Preserve. In Audubon Preserve, there is an incredible show of the trout lilies and the trillium and the larkspur.
That's very nice.
It's really something to see.
Lori?
So what about they need to be like good soil? Cause like in my yard, it's
They're gonna like the rich soil, yeah. I mean,
so you need more.
bring a little woods with you. Yeah. You have a question, ma'am?
I was just gonna say, over the years, I've seen all these at Highland Cemetery.
Oh, yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Good, that's a good point.
They'll grow in the woods around the cemeteries. Anywhere there's full shade, you're gonna find these. And sometimes out in the sun. Yes, ma'am?
So snowdrops are not an ephemeral?
Well, here's the thing about snowdrops. The ones leucogen, the ones you usually see are European. There is a native snowdrops, but I'm not sure it's here. There's some in Audubon Woods. Mrs. Ford sent me a picture. And I'm thinking that's a European one. I would actually have to look at the flower and check it out. We do have a native, but I've never seen it in Kenton County. Not to say I've seen everything in Kenton County, but I'm pretty old. Anyway, there is a very common European one that does spread. And when you think about, well, European, well, dandelions are European, think about it. So, some of these European weeds are quite aggressive. Yes, ma'am?
Is there a list somewhere that identifies not just the ephemeral, but all wildflowers that are non-toxic to pets?
Oh yeah, you can get a medicinal plant book. Your good buddies at the National Wildlife and Audubon and Peterson Field Guides have medicinal and edible plant books. Problem,
Well, right, but identifying which ones are non-toxic to pets.
right, which is easier because it's a small list. Sure, there are a lot of things you can eat in the woods, but the problem is there are a lot more that will kill you. Yes, you can find edible plant books. I think Peterson's got a pretty good one. We're not the best place in the country for edible plants. Believe it or not, we got wild blueberry
Yeah, I'm asking, I don't want to plant toxic plants
in your yard.
for the dog.
Oh,
right? So
okay.
is there a list that checks like other plants? You know, this is non-toxic to pets.
Yes, you can find that, but you're probably gonna have to do it on, I'm not sure there's a list. You probably have to do it on individuals. I've never seen dogs or cats go after any of these things. They just avoid them, even the deer. And you know, they'll eat anything.
Well, the violet is edible. I mean, it's even
Yeah.
edible for us. You can candy them and put them in your salads and stuff, and they're very good.
The really bad ones are like Jack in the Pulpit and Mayapple, but I've never seen even a tooth mark on those things. Nothing touches them. They must smell something, I don't know. You could probably find a list of non-toxic, non-animal killing.
Does your dog like to eat things in the garden?
In the past, yes.
My dog, it's really funny, he likes to eat the seeds off of forget-me-nots. And when he walks by, he just snaps them all up, and I finally looked at them, hoping they weren't poisonous, and they're not. But I don't think they're a native, are they, Patrick?
We have some natives, but not the one you have, no.
Okay.
So how do we get these seeds or plants other than going and picking them off the side of the road?
There are relatively few places that sell these. Pamela, who's that place you got, Springfield, Springdale, something gardens?
There's several places that do sell them in Ohio. I don't know of any over here.
Reminiscent Herb might have some of them out there.
Reminiscent Herb is gonna have the best selection in northern Kentucky of these. I did bring for everybody, wildflower seeds tonight, and we have a generous amount in here. These
And
are
they're
from,
the grow in the sun kind.
yeah, these are the ones that we'll have a talk on, like in early May. You wanna plant these Mother's Day or after. And these are a Kentucky wildflower seed mix. I'll read you here, Patrick, you have glasses. There's a-
Well, let's see what we got
There's a
here.
lot of stuff in here, and I'll just pass this around, everybody take some.
Oh, bachelor's buttons, not native.
And be patient because
Poppies,
they don't all come up at once, these
Cosmos,
are
black-eyed
over a
Susan.
period of time.
coneflower, coreopsis, wallflower, blue flax. A lot of these are not native, unfortunately. Scarlet flax, phlox, boar cosmos, snapdragons, coreopsis. Good mix, guaranteed success. Yes, sir.
So, is there a way to identify, is it worth trying to identify these plants by their leaves? Let's say you're going after the blooms have all fallen. You can do trillium, mayapple, that kind of stuff, trout lily.
Trillium mayapple, no problem. The things like the dentaria, the facelia, forget it, yeah.
It's just too close.
Even the botanist would have a tough time.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not familiar with Audubon Preserve. Where is that?
Okay. Well,
If you go, do you know where Audubon Road is in Park Hills?
Oh,
Yeah, you just go down Audubon Road, and when you get to the bottom of the first hill, and you start up the second hill there, it's right to your left. There's a sign marking it. There's a trail back there.
yeah, it's a more trail.
It's a very beautiful stand of woods. Unfortunately, a lot of the trees were ash, and so we're gradually replacing, the lost ash. But the
Got a lot of
wildflowers are
buckeye
beautiful.
trees in there, some linden. It's very, buckeyes produce dense shade, which is what these things like. So it's very nice. Yes, ma'am.
I read somewhere where it's nice to plant things like, they call them bouquets, where you put a variety of things in a patch, so they all kind of come up together. Do you have any recommendations of what to do with these particular kind of things?
Oh, they all cooperate. As far as I know, there's no animosity between these. I've seen them all just randomly together. They do tend to form patches because they spread by rhizomes and root stocks and whatnot. But no, a bloodroot will go right next to a mayapple, next to a trout lily. They all get along. Not too much warfare in the woods.
Are these seeds perennial?
They are all perennials. Every one of them. Which is another good thing. Most wildflowers are annual.
But they sell
Some shade, the ones that we have, or just strictly sun?
They're going to be full sun, or you're not going to get flowers. They'll grow in the shade, you just won't get flowers. But coreopsis, okay, yeah, you got a few. Rebecca is a perennial. Coreopsis annual. Phlox. Yes, sir.
Some more planting instructions for our wildflower seeds.
If you want to grow the summer and autumnal wildflowers and you lack sun, we have 10 plots in Park Hills looking for a wonderful caregiver. So should you be interested in that, just sign up and let me know. They're on Hamilton Road. These seeds that you have here do not require the rich soil that the ephemerals do. These are tough customers.
Don't grow on concrete if you water it.
Right, and it is about concrete where we have these wildflower patches, but over time, the wildflowers improve the soil. Now, what I do, and Patrick, we haven't talked about this, you will know more, is I allow the wildflowers to stand, even though they look messy, through the winter. And then, late February, March, I'll cut them down, but that provides food for so many creatures.
Oh, the birds love
All the seeds and stuff that you leave stand, and also provide shelter for creatures too. So we have a really nice wildflower patch we've been working on out in our parking lot. And I have learned from that the deer, it's surprising. By and large, they leave the wildflowers alone, except for amaranthus. Just forget it. They will come from
Spinach.
100 miles away to eat it. And they wait just for the right moment, you know, right when it's gonna bloom, and you're thinking, oh, it's gonna work. No.
Well, you know, amaranthus is quinoa.
Yeah, quinoa. So
they're like, oh, quinoa, yeah, I'll eat that.
yeah, they love it. Dr. Otto McHale is here with us tonight, and he has a fabulous wildflower patch that he's been developing on Breckenridge Road in Park Hills. So, you know, if you want to check that out, it's really beautiful. And Patrick explained to me how significant wildflowers are to our wildlife and to our pollinators because, explaining, you know, I was thinking, well, why
Right.
not the Walmart plant? But
Like I said, these have been there for thousands of years, and they've come to have associations with weird little insects that most people never see. I'm not an insect person, but there are lots of weird ones, trust me, and not honeybees. Virtually none of these are pollinated honeybees. Some of them, I mean, if the honeybee gets out early, but they usually come out later. Bumblebees come out first. So you got all these weird little insects that have associations. Some of these are pollinated by only one insect. And like the bloodroot, it relies on ants to take its seeds underground, and only certain ants. So it's very strange, and it's all part of the ecosystem of the woods. And you know, when they come in, they cut down the trees and nuke everything. It's over. Your ephemerals will die. They cannot take the full sun of summer. They're finished. They're gone. Amazingly, they come back in places that have regrown. And it's like, how'd they get there? I don't know. God plants them, somebody plants them, they get there. But they are a good part. And these are all native. A lot of these wildflowers in this batch are European and Asian and whatnot, but they're good. I mean, the birds love the seeds. They're virtually unkillable. Water them once a while. It's all good.
yeah, and you make a good point, Patrick. I wanted to mention to you, my daughter and I, we do the wildflowers here at the museum. We learned a trick. The birds really do love the seeds. So if you just cast your seeds on the surface, the birds will eat most of them.
They're gone.
So if you just take a bit of potting soil and just very lightly cast over the seeds, and then water them, it will protect them, and the birds won't get them all. It works really well.
Right.
Just
You don't want to go
very
too
light
deep.
bit.
When should we be putting these in the ground?
I usually wait till Mother's Day.
Okay.
So
These are.
Unless you want to start them indoors.
yeah,
May
and-
7th's our frost date here.
yeah, and indoor starting the wildflowers, it's just not worth it in my experience.
And as you know, it's frosted May 6th.
Yeah.
Yes?
But I also noticed that you have where you have those, where they came from. Make
Right.
sure you have good wildflower sources, because otherwise you get things mixed into it.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the
Absolutely,
problem.
yeah.
Still trying to get rid of Canadian thistle. 4 years later.
Canadian thistle was bred in hell by the devil. I'm sure of that, because I've been fighting it for decades at my house. It is truly evil. And that is one of the worst weeds around, actually.
It is true, and there are certain purveyors, you're so right about that. The seeds I gave you are from Eden Brothers. I found them to be one of the best. But there's a lot of really quality purveyors, but watch out. You don't want a lot of filler in your seeds, because you're right, you're gonna get stuff that you don't want. Of the flowers that Patrick was showing here, he has over the years given them to me to experiment with. And the celandine poppy by
Stylophrum diphyllum.
that is a beauty, and it's very
Easy.
hard to get established in your yard, but once established, it's very tough. It loves to grow under a tree, and it will bloom starting
much does.
very early in March through the end of June. Then it will rest, and then you'll get a small bloom again in the fall. But if it's in any kind of full sun, it doesn't look good. Its leaves just kind of burn up. But that is one that I found does really well. It looks really good with the larkspur. You know, if you bring the blue in with the yellow, it's a nice combo.
You need a book?
What did you say that was?
The
Pretty good one.
celandine poppy. And I've got a lot of them.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll give you a story.
Are they related at all to California poppies?
Totally.
Which grow through the summer?
Yeah, they are. They're related to oriental poppies and opium poppies and all those good poppies, except that these are delicate woodlands that die down in the summer. The European celandine hangs around a little bit longer and looks a lot like it, but it's a different plant.
Is the California poppy an import or is
No, it is native.
that's native?
That's Eschscholzia californica. which now you know why they call it California poppy. Yes, ma'am.
So these are all ephemeral.
Yes. Brief time.
Which means short life.
Yes.
There is, there's a lily it grows out here, and I don't hardly see it anywhere else. But it has a short life. We used to call them August lilies or naked ladies. And they grow in August.
Oh, those are
Foliage
resurrection
comes
lilies.
up, and then foliage dies down, then just the
Yeah.
naked stem.
Those are so-called resurrection lilies, and they're not native. They're tropical, but they do well here. The foliage comes up first, and then dies down, and then come August and September you get this pink trumpet-shaped or white trumpet-shaped flowers. Yeah, they're very nice. I mean, you can grow them. They're not native though.
So ephemeral does it mean both short-lived and native, or?
No, it just means short-lived in this sense before the trees leaf out.
Okay.
The resurrection lily is a little different. It comes up, dies, comes back. That's the resurrection, but these don't do that. It's just a one-time shot in spring, and then you have to wait till next spring.
Patrick, you might add why the honeysuckle is so dangerous to these ephemerals.
It's demonic too. We have a couple different Japanese, Chinese honeysuckles here that are truly awful. They have spread, just in my time, everywhere. Another one that unfortunately is bad are the pears.
Oh, yeah.
You drive down the interstate in the spring, oh, look at all the white flags. Yeah, those are the pears that are sterile.
Yeah.
How did they get there if they're not sterile? Those are so-called Bradford pears. They're actually an Asian pear, and they're not native. I guess the birds do like to eat them, but they're taking up valuable space. I mean, years ago when you would drive down St. Cow's Lane in the spring, it was all red buds, right? Now it's all honeysuckle and pear trees. And that's
And that
unfortunate.
honeysuckle leaves out so early.
And stays so late.
And it steals all the light for the ephemerals. So where the honeysuckle is, the ephemerals can't.
They also put out chemicals to discourage the growth of other plants, which is truly awful.
So it does, the honeysuckle does that.
Oh yeah, it does
I
that.
thought it was just
How do you
showing.
get rid of the Bradford pears? I mean, because they spread on the ground and come up like.
Well, here's the problem.
They have thorns that are this long.
That's right.
They're-
What they are is a hybrid of a calorie pear and another pear, and they graft them together. If the top pear dies, you know, the main part, then from the rootstock come the truly evil pears with the thorns, and they're just god awful.
And then the thorns, the leaves grow out
Right.
from the thorns in the
They're,
spring.
they're horrible.
Then the thorn softens and it becomes the branch, and then the branch grows out.
Exactly.
It loses its branches in the fall, and you have just the thorns, and then it starts over.
Right, that tear your flesh.
Then you've got, 2 dozen others that are come up.
A lot of communities have banned them, believe it or not, because they're also subject to fire blight.
Do you know how to get rid of that?
I call it ground level pruning.
When I do that, it spreads more.
What you can put some stuff on the stump that will inhibit the growth, but
See, they told me out at the extension office that you had to put it on the leaves to kill it, not on the stumps.
you can try, but you're going to need a lot of it. If you cut them down and just mow the suckers for a few years, they're going to give up because the rootstock is going to run out of energy and die. Not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a few years. And those suckers are very aggressive. They'll grow 3 feet in a week. I mean, they're unbelievable. Yeah. The other bad thing about it is the branching. They have a branching habit that lends itself to splitting. You know, right there, what's the fork in the road before Cleveland? The Stone House?
Park Drive and Audubon.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That beautiful pair there just split right in half this sprint last year. They're very prone to that. So they're not native. They're evil. And oh, by the way, the flowers stink. Yes. They got it going. Yeah.
Is there a difference between the honeysuckle that's real invasive and, whatever?
Oh, sure. There's some garden honeysuckles that are quite nice.
To, like, what I remember as a kid that smelled good.
Smell good.
And you pull the flower out and eat the nectar. Yeah, sure. There's some native honeysuckles. It's the Japanese and Chinese ones that are so aggressive and bad. The only thing worse is maybe kudzu. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so the good news about that, we've been working to clear the honeysuckle from our property for 15, 20
Decades?
years. And the ephemerals are coming back all by themselves.
Good,
That's
good.
great to hear.
It's been very exciting, so now we have carpets of spring beauties and.
Yeah, and you know they do well.
Come back, the Miami mist is coming back.
Good.
All over the place, so.
They're very nice, aren't
Yeah,
they?
there's kill it, it comes back on its own.
That's good. And I wish there was a way to, I mean, they've tried all kinds of things short of biowarfare, but it's bad news. It really is. Between that and the pear, it's taken over a lot of the roadsides in Kentucky. Okay. I thank you.
Thank you.